Joe Biden did something the other day that nobody was really expecting, myself included, and he announced that the U.S. is going to draw down our involvement in the genocide in Yemen. Now, there's no indication that he's ending the war in Yemen, because he's been vague about it and using weaselly words like we're going to end all, quote, relevant arms sales. So there was previously they halted or they suspended arms sales to Saudi Arabia. And then now I checked and they're saying they're going to stop all relevant arms sales. So they're still going to be giving Saudi Arabia weapons. And as far as the logistical support that we're providing to Saudi Arabia, I have no idea what's going to happen with that. But they're saying that they're going to limit the arms sales to Saudi Arabia. And yes, that is a good thing because it means less people will die. No doubt about that. But I'm seeing a lot of people giving Joe Biden, they're just going over the top in the praise and giving him a gold star and acting like this was such a huge, bold, heroic step from Joe Biden to, from what we understand, to limit arms sales to Saudi Arabia as they're doing, actively doing a genocide. The worst humanitarian crisis, the worst man-made humanitarian crisis on the planet. And you know, some of the reasons that people on the left are giving him, they say that they're giving him this over-the-top praise is because they want to appear fair. Or the other reason is like, oh, if they do something that we like, that is good, that is a step in the right direction, we should give them praise and encourage them to do it more. So if he does this, it might not be everything we want, but we should just we should shower him with praise so he feels like, oh, wow, they really like when I did that. I should do it more. And on its face, I mean, that argument makes sense, but that's not the way I see it. There's a counter argument to that, which is, all right, you give him this over the top praise for doing this vague limiting of arms sales, but not really sure about the rest of our support for this genocide. You give him the overtop praise for that. And okay, another way to look at it is now he sees, oh, wow, I don't really have to do anything. I just have to give these vague promises or cut down arms sales to a genocide. And people are praising me and acting like I should get a Nobel Peace Prize and I'm a savior and all this stuff. So if you go over the top with the praise, then you're also reinforcing the idea that, oh, all I have to do is the bare minimum and everybody's going to treat me like a fucking hero anyway. So I'm just going to do the bare minimum. So that's another part of it. Yeah, another reason why I'm really against giving Joe Biden this over the top praise for this, whatever he's doing in regards to Yemen, is we need to stop operating within the framework that the establishment sets up. And what I mean by that is they, on any issue you can think of, the establishment consensus among the politicians in this country is so far and extreme to the right in regards to foreign policy. It is so imperialistic and hawkish that the second they do something that isn't killing more people, everybody acts like, oh, that's a huge anti-war move and you're such a peace lover and all that stuff. But in reality, we should be judging them by the standard of not, oh, it's better than all the shitty politicians in Washington want to do. We should be judging them by the standard of, is this what we actually should be doing? And in regards to Yemen, not only should we get out of there, not only should we stop, or should we stop, quote, relevant arms sales to Saudi Arabia in their genocide to Yemen. Not only should we do that, we should be doing war crimes investigations and prosecutions for anybody who was involved in that. And then outside of just Yemen, because we have to, it's not, Yemen isn't just an isolated event or an isolated thing. This is part of this broader, quote, war on terror that we're waging around the world, and where we are just doing endless slaughters and genocide for the profit of the military-industrial complex. So if you're going to limit arms sales to the genocide happening in one particular country, okay, you're still a war criminal and you're still carrying out genocides in 7 other countries and doing drone doing drone strikes in dozens of countries in Africa. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this is kind of pathetic. And it's not worth giving him over the top praise and showering him with praise. And then the most glaring and the most obvious reason why we shouldn't be giving Joe Biden over the top praise for this is because him and Barack Obama, they're the ones who started this genocide. They were the ones who started this war back in, was it 2014 or 2015? They were the ones who initiated this. So everything that has come about in Yemen is a result of their corrupt decision to help the Saudis try to take control of the country from the Yemeni people. All the hundreds of thousands of deaths, all the destruction in the country, that is Joe Biden's fault. So if he comes in and does this weak ass, we're going to limit, or we're going to end, quote, relevant arms sales to Saudi Arabia in the genocide to Yemen, I'm not giving you a fucking medal for that. You set the fire. I'm not going to sing your praises because you put a little water on it, because you helped put out the fire. I'm not going to give you credit for that. Like, can you imagine if in the middle of World War II, Hitler just says, you know what, we're going to stop this genocide in Poland. And all while he's doing that, he's still killing a bunch of civilians and doing genocides all over Europe. But he just says, you know what, let's not do that in Poland. What the fuck would you be sitting here praising Hitler and be like, oh my God, what a wonderful man he is. Oh, what a kind-hearted man he is. He stopped the slaughter in Poland. No, that's a start. But again, you're doing genocides all throughout Europe. And also, you're still a war criminal and you're still responsible for the slaughter that happened there in the first place. So you and everybody else responsible should be tried in The Hague for war crimes and crimes against humanity and put in prison for the rest of your life. So I'm not giving Joe Biden over the top praise for doing the absolute bare minimum. And really, this isn't the bare minimum, but just something that's a little less shitty than the status quo. So let me get into some of the details of just how horrific what has been going on in Yemen since 2015 has been. And this was a story that this was something that I covered more on the show when I first started. And I mean, over the last years, shit has just been so crazy that I haven't paid as much attention and devoted as much time on this show as I should have to Yemen. And I take responsibility for that. But some of the earliest videos I did on the show were covering some of the atrocities, like when Saudi Arabia, there was this one time where they bombed an open air marketplace and they killed like 30 people or something like that. And then the ambulances came and they tried to save whoever they can and take the injured to the nearest hospital to try to save their lives. And then they go around and then bomb the fucking hospital and kill even more people. That's what we've been supporting in Yemen this whole time. Or the story where this one made headlines when the Saudis with US weapons, all of this is with US weapons. With US weapons, they bombed a school bus and killed 60 kids. They killed 60 fucking kids on a school bus. All with US support. And this was years ago. No repercussions for it, no price to pay for it since. We completely decimated the infrastructure in Yemen. The roads, the bridges, the schools, the hospitals. The last I've seen a report on it, and this was back in 2017, 2018, at least 50% of the hospitals in Yemen were no longer operational because either the Saudis bombed the shit out of them, or because of the blockade that Saudi Arabia and the U.S. were doing around Yemen, they couldn't get medical supplies and into the country. So the hospitals didn't have anything. So they just had to close. So half the hospitals in Yemen were not even functional. And then this brings me to the horrific part of it, the siege warfare. So during this entire time, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia and our allies have completely blocked off Yemen. So there cannot be any commerce, there cannot be any trade or anything like that, or real shipments of goods and supplies, like I said, medical supplies. All of that stuff has been blocked. Food, all of that stuff has been blocked from coming into Yemen. That is illegal. That is a war crime. There is no, that's not up in the air. It's not up for debate. It's not open for interpretation. Siege warfare, blocking off a country from getting necessary supplies for basic functioning, that is a war crime. And I believe it by the Geneva Convention, but it's international law that is a war crime. We've been doing that. We've been helping Saudi Arabia do it this entire time. And because of that, we started the worst famine in the world. Millions of people have been starving for years because of this. I remember seeing videos of people being interviewed, and they're saying there is literally no food anywhere around here. Nowhere. People were eating fucking grass. They were eating grass. They were feeding their kids grass because that was literally the only thing that was edible anywhere near them. That's been going on since 2015, 2014. Another mind-boggling part of this entire story. So, if all that wasn't bad enough, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have been okay, so most of the U.S. and Saudi Arabia's direct involvement has been airstrikes and drone strikes in Yemen and dropping bombs on them. But that isn't enough to actually carry out the war. So Saudi Arabia and the U.S. have been arming, training, and paying mercenaries to be the foot soldiers on the ground, the boots on the ground, and to take over territory and do all types of ungodly things, massacres and things like that on the ground. And guess who the mercenaries that we were aligned with in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen were? Fucking Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda. The group that initiated this entire war on terror, the excuse, the justification that we use to bomb all over the fucking Middle East and all over Africa, the excuse that initiated this back in the Bush administration was, we have to go get Al-Qaeda. They attacked us on 9/11. We have to get big bad Al-Qaeda. If we have to set the whole fucking world on fire to do it, we have to get Al-Qaeda. And the U.S. was arming Al-Qaeda the entire time to help them overthrow or take control of Yemen and do regime change in Yemen. So this whole thing has just been atrocity after atrocity, war crime after the next. They're all responsible for it. Obama, Biden, Trump, they all did it. They're all war criminals. They should all be in prison for this. And the numbers from the UN, the official death count that they have is 250,000 people have died from this war in Yemen. I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe that. In every single military intervention that the U.S. has done in my lifetime, we have always underreported and undercounted the official deaths. Always. And it's not even close. And they always have these, as we learned from Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange in the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs, they always come up with these rationalizations and these weird ways of counting deaths to make it seem like less people died or less civilians died than they actually did. And they like to call them enemy combatants. And that's the default position for any male that's from the ages of like 16 to 60. If you get killed, you're an enemy combatant. So they fudge the numbers. They manipulate the numbers to make it sound less horrific than it actually is. And I guarantee you, Yemen is not an exception to the rule. They aren't overcounting the deaths. They say it's 250,000 deaths in Yemen. I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised if it was twice that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 1 million deaths, because seeing what has been going on in that country for the last 6 years, I just don't believe that only 250,000 people died. If we're going to reduce arms sales, if we're going to, quote, stop relevant arms sales to Saudi Arabia in this genocide that they're doing on Yemen, I'm not against that, obviously. That means less people dying, but that's nowhere near where we should be. That's not the solution to the problem. There needs to be some accountability for this. Everybody responsible should be in prison. They should all be in prison for war crimes. And people might say, oh, that's so unrealistic. You can't expect Joe Biden to do that because he'd be trying to put himself in prison. Oh, well, that's what I don't care if that's politically inconvenient for Joe Biden, or if it's whatever it is, if he wants to cover his own ass so now he won't prosecute anybody for it. That's not a real reason to not do it. That's self-serving and looking out for your own interests above the interests of the Yemenis that were slaughtered and their families and the refugees that we created and all the devastation that this brought. And also, by not doing any type of war crimes prosecution for this and sending everybody to The Hague for this, this is just like all the other military interventions and regime change operations that we've done in this country. You are setting the precedent that this is okay, that you can on a whim. And again, and another thing, this whole thing was done without even the approval of Congress. It was unilateral, and this is against the Constitution. It was the Obama administration unilaterally decided to engage in this genocide. So if we let this slide with no prosecutions, again, you're setting the precedent that any president of the United States can just up and decide he's going to slaughter an entire country, destroy an entire country on his own whims or whatever corrupt decision-making that he made. He can just up and decide to do this, and there will be no consequences for anybody involved. So I'm not giving Joe Biden any credit for this, but hopefully the bombs will stop raining down on people in Yemen, because this is just inexcusable.